recording. There we go. We are recording. And then I'll post this recording and the PowerPoint up onto Omnivox on Sunday, right, after I go over this again with the Sunday crowd. And before we get to this, you guys have any questions, general, specific, anything on your minds?
I'm okay.
You're okay. Blade?
November 29.
Sorry?
Our class ends at November 29, right?
It's such a weird schedule, ours, because of it being a Sunday. I think so. I think technically our last class is the 29th. I'll still be doing, I'll still do a Friday class on the 4th, probably. If you guys, because the way I'm thinking, I'm probably going to have you hand in your final reports on the 6th.
Yes.
Okay, so that will be 2 weeks after you hand in your outlines. And I may stretch that a bit if I can. I have to check and see when I have to submit my grades. But I'm going to give you as much time as I can to hand in those final reports. And I will, since this Friday is not even on the schedule, I certainly plan on having another Friday one on the 4th as well, which will be an opportunity for everyone to come and discuss where they're at with that final report, if they have questions or concerns, and so on. And keep in mind, I'll remind you of this as well, that as we get closer, like in a couple of weeks after you do your outlines, you can send me drafts or pieces of your report if you want to get my feedback as you're putting it together. Okay? But yeah, I think technically our last class is the 29th. But again, it's such a weird schedule with the Sunday class. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. So what I want to put up first and go through fairly quickly is the PowerPoint on outlines. It's a general, you'll understand what I mean by that in a couple minutes. And there's a lot of text in these PowerPoints. I'm not going to obviously read it to you. You know how to read. But I'm just going to draw your attention, highlight certain things. But I do suggest you read through the whole thing when you are utilizing your allocated time to do your outlines. Okay. So let me pull it up. Righty. You can all see this, right? I don't know why it's what all this space up here is. Why is it doing that? If I do this, there we go. Learn something new every day. Okay, so again, as always, stop me if there's any questions that arise as I go through this. As I said, there's a lot of information here, but a lot of it's general information. It's the type of information that you can apply, obviously, specifically to our course, but to all your courses. All right. So, and I sourced this from University of Richmond and USC, and so I called a number of different things together here. All right. So, what is an outline? Bear with me. Okay, you know what an outline is. I know that. But nonetheless, refreshers are always good. Formally arranging and developing ideas. It's as simple as that. And there is a lot of flexibility in an outline. But remember, there's two things going on here as you are preparing this particular outline. One is, most importantly, it's to prepare you to write your report. And that's where there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how you design it and how you go about it. But because it's also an assignment that you're going to hand in to me, ultimately, when you get to the end of playing with it, if you will, there has to be structure and a certain formality because you're handing it as an assignment. More often than not at the university, you're not going to be asked to hand in an outline. You're just going to want to make an outline to prepare you for whatever project or essay that you're writing. And that's really where the flexibility comes in. When I do outlines, it starts off usually with index cards, where I just get an idea that's related to that topic and I start just jotting it down anywhere, right? I even, back in the good old days when we used to be able to go out a lot and walk and go to coffee shops and things like that, I'd always have a notebook with me because ideas can come regarding a certain project at any time and just jot it down. So for me, my first iteration of an outline is usually ridiculously messy. I've index cards, sometimes I've written things on napkins. Doesn't matter. That's how it starts, because every outline starts with the thinking. And you've already started that process by doing your proposals. So, the bottom line is, in preparing an outline for you to write a report, not for me as an assignment, but for you, can be done in a variety of different ways, whatever you're most comfortable with. I don't suggest you do it as in such a messy way as I do, because then it's really hard to put it all together. But for us, however you start it, for the 22nd of November, you're gonna have to hand it in. So it does have to be structured and proper, like an assignment, okay? So keep that in mind when I discuss all the, because a lot of this information is really just for a non-assignment outline, an outline that you're just using to prepare for a future assignment. Generally, there's two types of outlines. There's a topic outline or a sentence outline. I find usually the sentence outline is more productive because it's more detailed, right? So, and again, the more details and the more thought and time you put into the outline, the less time you'll spend writing your final report, because you'll have it all mapped out, right? That's the key. And what you're doing here in the outline is you're checking to see if and how your ideas connect to each other, right? That's very important for your reports, right? You want to be clear on the process of how you are conveying the information to achieve an end, to fix a problem, to call for action, to make the situation better. So you want to be thinking, what's the best way to be convincing in an academic milieu, right? Not in a political way, right? We've talked about this. It's very much be thinking of your audience. And again, your audience, the audience you want to be thinking about is not me. I will be putting on different hats. It's the audience that you have designated as your target audience in your proposal, right? And you want to be thinking of the outline in the same way. Even if you wouldn't technically be giving that audience an outline, the outline is geared towards the final report, right? So again, think about how the ideas, what's the best order in which to present the ideas to build your case, all right? Outlines help a writer see the overall picture. Once you have the outline there, I promise you, and you probably know this because you've done outlining before. Oh, okay, now I know where I'm starting, what's going to be in the middle, and how I'm going to end. And until you get to that point, it's just the final report is just like this big thing that you got to do, 2,000 words. You get that outline, and now you've broken that big cloud that is the final report into little pieces. And it's much more manageable that way. And again, there is no right or wrong way to make an outline, except that you're going to be handing it in to me. So the right way there is, regardless of the actual details of the structure of your outline that you hand in to me, it needs to be organized. It needs to be academic. sorry, my youngest is doing his online schooling every second day now at high school. We have to make sure that your noise doesn't interfere with me. Use your headphones, please. All right, so again, there is no right or wrong way to make the outline except for in terms of what you're going to hand in. So there has to be an order to it that I can recognize. Can't just be all over the place. And of course, that's better for you. So in crafting, this is review. You've been doing this. You've done this in other courses. You've been doing this for me in this course, right? You identify your topic. You got to figure out what the main points are. This is the key, arranging the main points. All right, and then using your subpoints, right? Main point, and you designate it with Roman numerals or ABC or whatever kind of heading you want in your outline. Of course, the heading will probably, and we're going to take a quick look when I finish with this, at that second PowerPoint that shows us the structure that we're aiming for in the final reports. Okay, and then, yeah, look it over. It goes without saying. And what you're looking at once you create it, and I usually do, as I think you gathered, multiple drafts of an outline. Because when you look it over, does it make logical sense? Remember our discussion of logical fallacies, et cetera, et cetera. And is everything fleshed out? And is there anything that is unnecessary? Very important. Do this at the outlining stage. It's going to save you so much time when you're doing the revisions on your final report. Eliminate anything that is not necessary. So a topic outline is more fragmented, if you will. All right, so topic sees a larger structure through a series of short ideas. Usually, I mean, this again, talking about the topic outline and the sentence outline. Often the way I proceed is, so I don't know what that pop-up is I start with a topic outline and I usually expand it to a sentence outline. What you hand in to me can be either or somewhere in between. All right, that's up to you. But the more time and effort you put in this outline, the better it'll be. Right? This type of topic outline lets you see the big picture, but doesn't go into the details as much. Okay, but it does give you at least that structural understanding of how you're going to proceed. This is just an example. You can look this over, read over again. But again, it's short phrases instead of sentences. Whereas when we get to the sentence outlines, you're going into more detail, more detailed structures. Okay, sentences describing what each section will cover. And again, it's good for you. But keep in mind, when you start with this, you know, you just get the ideas out. Don't just jump in thinking, okay, I'm writing an outline that has to be handed in. The first and foremost, you go in there and just write. Don't be thinking about grammar or anything like that. Just get the ideas out, get them structured, right? You have your source material that you're going to have to go into, where you're going to place that. Then you refine it so that it's properly formatted and written in a way to submit to me. But when you start, you're always, first and foremost, this is what's going to help you with that final report. You're ensuring that the papers and your notes have enough support for the main ideas. That shouldn't be a problem because you have your source material now, but make sure it coheres, right? Make sure that it flows. Everything relates properly. So again, between a sentence outline, okay, this is just a quick review of it, a little easier to follow. This is the review. Topic outlines, sentence outlines. Okay. Helps create larger picture through a series of short phrases. Sentence outlines go into the little details of the paper and are particularly useful when the topic is complex. Your topics are, for the most part, would fall more towards the complex. That's why the sentence outline is probably the better way to go. But you can start off with the topic outline and develop it from there. So moving from the outline to the paper, you follow the flow of the outline. That's the whole idea, right? That you have an outline that now, okay, now I know what I'm doing in my introduction. I know what I'm going to be doing after the table of contents, et cetera, et cetera. Gives you some structure in your mind as well as to how you're going to proceed in writing the report. Now, the thing to be attentive to is the outline. As you start writing, you have your foundation, you have your blueprint, if you will. But once you start writing the report, you may come up with new ideas as you're doing the writing that may deviate somewhat from your initial outline. Right? And I mean, that's quite common. You need to check and see how far that deviation is. All right. So when you're going back, you're reading your report, and then you look at your outline and go, well, wait a minute, I changed these things. You need to really reflect on that. Because if you spent enough time on the outline and then your report is deviating from the outline, ask yourself, did I get carried away with the writing and lost my structural understanding of it? Or did the new ideas that I came up with as I was writing it actually change aspects of how I want to present it? So one of the ways you can do this is what's called a retro outline, okay? Which is an outline created from the paper once it's written. So after you've written the paper and you've got your draft and so on, then you do an outline, you outline your final paper, and to see how that corresponds to your original outline. So this method, you don't have to do this. This is a suggestion, okay? This method is quite useful before handing in any paper. If it is difficult to create this retro outline that makes sense and is clearly organized, then that's telling you that the paper, the final report, is troubled. Now, if you write your final report and you look and it all corresponds real closely to that outline, then you're in good shape. The retro outline is if you've seen that you've deviated from your original outline. Okay, and the retro outline can help by showing where the organization has broken down. It's a means. It's kind of a type of approach to revisions to make sure that everything is tight and organized and flows. Okay. So again, general stuff. A good outline is important because it helps with writer's block. Helps you. This is the most important thing. It helps you stay organized and focused, and helps to ensure that the paper, your final paper, will have coherence. Okay, and will work together. Ensures that you always have something to help recalibrate your writing. I have so many of these mini outlines here. It always brings me back and gets me focused, so you don't drift. Okay, so keep that in mind. It helps to keep you motivated, because especially since you guys are writing on projects that you're interested in, and so you can look at your outline. Oh yeah, that's what I'm coming to next. Helps you organize your multiple ideas. All right, and that's again because you have 5 source materials. You have a lot of things that you're right now, I would imagine for most of you, are kind of like all over the place. The outline's going to bring them in and give you okay, it doesn't seem like an overwhelming cloud. It's now broken down into its little pieces, and this is very manageable. Okay. Organization about the ideas, and serves as a schedule for when certain aspects of your writing should be accomplished. That's another. This one's important because once you have your outline, part of it, not that you have to show me when you hand it in, but for yourselves, is okay. Here's what this is how the structure and breakdown of what I have to write. Okay, so I'm going to get this section, the introduction, done by such and such a time. And then I'm going to be sure that I get the next section done, etc., by such and such a time. Right? So you should be thinking about the scheduling, everything. It's organization here. Outlining is about organizing. Right? All in anticipation of making it a lot easier to write that report. Especially that the report, when you're writing that report, it's going to be the same time you're taking exams and have all your other assignments due. Get ahead of it. Time management. Okay, so again, this is a bit of review here. You build your arguments towards an evidence-based conclusion. You know that. That's what your report's all about. The evidence has to be there. So when you're doing your outline, incorporate into your outline quotes from your source material or sections, page numbers that you know you're going to use from that source material. Have that in your outline. Don't go scrambling while you're writing the report to try and what can I use here as evidence to support this. Have that in your outline, then you don't have to be scrambling like that when you're writing your report. It's all there. Boom. Oh, I have to go to page 39. Boom, there it is, because I have my source material here. So much easier. Okay, so again, this is basic review. You identify the research problem, identify the main categories, create the first categories and create the subcategories. Well, again, when I jump back over to the other PowerPoint, reminding you of what the structure of your final report will be, that can be a model for how you set up your outline. And once you have developed the basic outline of the paper, organize the contents to match the standard formats of the research paper. Okay. There is no rule dictating which approach is best, right? I've told you that. You have what works for you as academics. Both topic and set and outlines you can use, they don't have to Roman or Arabic numerals along with capitals, small. That's in terms of how you structure your outline. I may throw up an example, but I'm not, it doesn't have to be Roman or numbers or capital letters or small letters. I leave that to you. That's for you to develop so that you have a consistent pattern throughout your academic career with how you're going to do your outlinings. But keep in mind, a rigid format should be used, especially if you're required to hand in your outline. So whatever format you choose, okay, whether you're going to use Roman numerals or lettering, all right, you want to be consistent and you want to have it formal. Academic standards. But although the format of an outline is rigid, it shouldn't make you inflexible about how you write your paper. That's right what I'm getting at. This is your blueprint. But if things come to you as you're writing the report, that may get modified. But you want to be careful, right, that the modifications don't break the unity and the cohesion of your report. That's why you have the outline, to keep you focused on that unity and cohesion. Organizing your main points of the outline in chronological order, yeah, that again comes back to how you're going to schedule your writing of the report, and so that you know I'm bringing up this topic, then this one, then this issue, and of course that'll tie in with the format of your report. Yeah, in terms of its length, this, it's really up to you. Obviously the length will be different if you go into a sentence outline that is, really involved. For me, for what I'm looking for, whatever you're comfortable with. But what I will tell you, when I look at your outlines, what I expect is to be able to see something that really maps out clearly and unambiguously what your report's going to look like. So I don't care how long it is. That being said, I don't, it's got to be, it's got to have enough there that I will recognize what the topic is. So when you're putting it together, don't assume that I know what your topic is. You have to make that clear. Okay, so I would imagine your outlines will be 2 to 3 pages, something along those lines. And again, just this is the last one here. A disorganized outline means a disorganized paper. Okay. It's worth 10% of your final mark. And so that's something to take into account. But again, this is more important. If you give me, if you give me, hand in a sketchy outline, a rushed outline, yes, it'll be reflected in the grade, but more importantly, it will more likely than not be reflected in the grade in your final report, because it means you're not prepared to the extent that you should be. And that's what I'll be looking for. When I look at your outlines, I'm like, okay, they're ready to go. Excellent, go for it. And if I get any outlines from you that I'm going, this is way too sketchy and not clear, I will get in touch with you. All right, it's not so much the grade that I'm concerned about for the outline. It would be my concern about what's going to happen in your final report. Okay, so take the time to do your outline effectively. You have 10 days. All right, so I mean, I give you guys a lot of time to do this. And of course, you can reach out to me, send me a draft of an outline. I have no problem with that. And I'll look it over and give you my comments. All right. Any questions about this PowerPoint? It's pretty straightforward, a lot of information, but anything that you want me to go back to, or anything that's confusing you right now? We're good? Yeah.
Good.
Good, good. Okay. All right. So the only other thing I want to go back today, and you know, when you're looking at this PowerPoint, you should also have at the same time this one in front of you. All right. If you remember, this one we went over a while ago, but there's 2 PowerPoints out there dealing with the final report. Obviously, you want to go back to them, and I will probably will all be looking at them over in a week or two, as you guys get ready to actually do the writing of your final report. But this one is the more important one while you're doing your outline, because it's giving you the structure. Now, remember, I told you there's wiggle room here in certain areas with the structure, depending on the specifics of the topic that you are writing your report on. But some things have to be there, right? So you know you're going to have to write an abstract. You're going to have the table of contents. You're going to have the executive summary, and you're going to have the list of figures. All right? How does that work in terms of your outline? Put it in there. You can break it down in this manner. This is front matter, right? It's everything that's at the front before we get into the body of it. So you can use this as a guideline for creating the headings for your outline. Okay, so main kind, you have the body of the proposal, the schedule of work, the budget, the qualifications. Remember, the qualifications are your qualifications. And you have to decide how you're going to include that. Conclusion, you have press release. Remember, we talked about this. We're probably not going to be doing that, but I leave it there because some of your topics really lend themselves to including a type of press release. It's something I'm going to bring up probably next week. About whether or not you want to include that, if it's something that will lend itself to your specific topic. All right, so again, just to remind you what this is going to look like, get into the state of mind you need. This is going to be like your cover page, where your abstract will be down here. This is another one, though, from this PowerPoint that you can use to help you with your outlining. because here it breaks it down through the table of contents. Right, so plan of action, that can be a part of your outline. Hold on, let's get my little drawing thing up here. Right, so when you have your outline, you could have, sections broken off. So up here, executive summary, just a couple of notes about what you're going to do with that. Mention that you're going to have the list of figures, and then you have your introduction. But when you have the section on the introduction, you want, in your outline, what are you bringing up in the introduction? You can do this in point form, and you can do your outline in point form, right? That's up to you how detailed you want to be. You can mix them. You can have a couple of sentences that lead to these points. These are the points. Or here as well, whether it's in the introduction or the plan of action or the schedule, any of these areas, where you can also include in that outline using source material 1 and source material 2. Page 29. Put that in there, in that outline. So it reminds you. Again, the press release we'll talk about, and your conclusion, when you have your section on the conclusion. Okay, what do you want to say in the conclusion? You could just put conclusion there, but that doesn't say anything. Remember, and I will come back to talking about the conclusions. One of the most important things about conclusions, whether it's an essay or a report, is that your audience has now seen all this. So a conclusion, which usually revisits what was mentioned in the introduction and the executive summary and so on in the abstract, but now your audience has seen all your evidence and have engaged with your argument. So what you do in the conclusion is you have to take that into account. So you can put down here, emphasize plan of action, protests on Christmas Day, whatever. All depending on what the nature of your report's going to be. All right, so this is, again, to remind you what everything is doing and what is written here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. This is telling you what an executive summary is. So if you have a section in your outline, which you probably will, on executive summary, A, B, C. Remember the executive summary, what are the most important points? A little more expansive than your abstract, but the importance of that executive summary, this is what your audience will look at more than probably anything else. So when you're doing your outline, what must be included in that executive summary? Right? And that's part of the process, because you may say, okay, I've got 10 really important things going on in this report, but I can't include them all in the executive summary. It'll make the executive summary too long. So what are the most important ones, and how can I phrase it in such a way as to demonstrate the importance of these particular things, and also include in that a way to acknowledge that there are other points, but they're related to these 2 or 3. You want to be thinking about that as you do your outline. And then in the outline, put the headings or whatnot here that will remind you of the other things that you're going to have to bring up in the body of the report. The list of figures, if you're thinking about that as well while you're doing your outline, so you have a category in your outline, list of figures, know which ones you're using. Graphs, bar graphs, tables, and ideally, from where? Are you making your own tables, your own graphs? Are you getting them from your source material? So you have a section in your outline, list of figures. These are the ones you're going to use. You can even, this is kind of like an outline in itself. Know it beforehand, before you start writing the report, as much as you can. You may not know, because you're going to have 2 weeks after the outline to do your report, so there may be new ones coming in. But at least start the thinking process predicated on the structure that we're looking at here. Body, the introduction we talked about, statement of problem. I would certainly, statement of problem or statement of the course of action, I would certainly try to have that as concisely defined in your outline as possible. It's kind of like the thesis statement of an essay, right? If you do an outline for an essay, which I'm sure you've all done, right? You're always going to include that thesis statement. The thesis statement has to be in that outline, right? You're going to say, here are the 3 main points that I'm going to be discussing. Here's my thesis statement. Here's my topic sentence for paragraph 1, topic sentence for paragraph 2, and so on. So if that's what you're more familiar with in terms of an outline, draw on that as well. Statement of problem would be like that thesis statement, so it needs to be there. Solution criteria, right? What's the solution? How are we going to fix this, or how are we going to make this better? Put that in your outline, point form, written out in a couple of sentences, whatever works for you. And again, test it by ensuring that when you look at it, you know what you're talking about. I know, that's why I put it there, so that it'll direct me directly to this. Then think, will someone else be able to understand that as well? That's where it's going to get a little tricky, because you have to hand this in to me. Okay, but keep it in mind, it doesn't have to be thoroughly explained, because that's what the report is for. And the outline is mainly for you. So make sure you understand it first and foremost. Same thing with plan of action, process, sequence of events. How do we proceed towards our goal? And then in more detail, the schedule of work. How this is incorporated into your outline will depend on your topic. All right, so this one might not even be included in some of your final reports, depending on the nature of it. But be always, in terms of the work, but be thinking of a schedule. On some level, the schedule has to be there. If you're going to form a policy team to explore this and meet with government officials, when? Don't just say we're going to, right? When are you going to do that? And that's something, again, you include in the outline. And always remember, when you're working with the outline, and of course we'll talk about this more when you're doing the reports, is anticipate your audience. Put yourself in your audience's shoes. So if you're giving this report and you're saying, we're going to put together this, that, and the other thing, but you don't say when, well, you should be anticipating that your audience is going to go, so when are we going to do this? Next year? 2 years from now? Next week? Be specific and get as much of that specificity into your outline. Of course, the budget. You want to be thinking about this, obviously, at the outline phase. Some of you, the budget is a little more ephemeral, if you will, given what you're trying to set out to do, but you have to think of all kinds of things. You're going to organize a protest. Great. What is that going to cost? Do you need a license? How many people are going to be at the protest? How many people are you anticipating at the protest? Do you think maybe you should put something in the budget to make sure, I don't know, that you have some coolers with water? Is it going to be hot? Do you need signs, right? Placards and things like that. There's always money involved in everything, right? Map out your own qualifications. Remember, we talked about this. What do you put there to demonstrate that you're capable of doing this? So think about those things, those qualities that you have that would give you build up your credibility, your ethos. All right. And it gives you some examples here. Remember, this PowerPoint is one of the most important ones that you have there. And then the conclusion. Okay, you restate your recommendations and your rationale for making them, but as I emphasize, but it's presented in a way that now acknowledges that your audience has seen your argument. When you first stated your recommendations or your ideas at the beginning, your introduction, your audience hasn't seen the evidence or the proof or the methodology that you're going to employ. Now they do. Take that into account. Yeah, so this is more for the report, not so much for the outline. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Maria? Maria, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. So, we're going to wrap it up here, but I really want to remind you, I know I keep repeating this, but it really is so important. Maybe the biggest challenge you guys have in the course of this nature is your time management. So please start thinking about it. We're coming to the end of the semester, right? Things are, as you know, are going to get very hectic. And I think all of you in this class are graduating, right? And have probably applied to university. So there's going to be a lot of pressure and all this stuff. Plus we're dealing with this long distance, COVID, and everything else. As an outline works to prepare you to write your report, outline your time management, suggestion only, for these last few weeks before we finish the semester. For all your courses, but particularly this one because of the flexibility you have in this course. Avoid falling into the trap of having left everything to the end. If you've noticed, that's what I've been emphasizing. Get this done now. And then when you get to writing that report, it'll be so much easier. And of course, reach out to me at any time to discuss anything, any matters related to the reports and the outlines. All right. I will be finishing marking the annotated bibliographies. But again, you've done, you know, I mean, you have your sources. That's what's most important with that. And by doing the annotated bibliography, you know why you chose those sources. And if you're reaching at any point in the next couple of weeks while you put together your outline going, geez, do I have enough here? Okay, come to me. I was talking with one of your colleagues, came to me and said, I think I have to change my whole project. I don't feel I have enough material. I don't feel it's going to work. We sat down, we talked for 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes together, we found all how relevant and viable his topic is. It's very easy to start going, especially since you guys designed your own topics, to go, oh, is this really good enough? Or do I have enough here? Right? If you feel yourself falling into that on any level, send me an email. We'll arrange a one-on-one Zoom and we'll brainstorm it together. Okay, trust me, I've been doing this a long time. And after 15, 20 minutes, your colleague was going, wow, yeah, great. Now okay, that's clear. Boom, let's go. All right, so be prepared if that starts to happen. Call me, call me, email me, and we'll do the Zoom thing. Okay? Any questions? Concerns?
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. I appreciate that you guys are here on the Friday. And Lay, sometimes you're Friday and you're here on Sundays as well. And of course, as much as you can, as much as you need with that. All right. And yeah, as I said, this will be posted. I'm going to stop the recording now.